Hi.
Hi, Brad. How has Kelly improved in the 2 years you've had him, and what has he worked on over the summer? How do you expect
I think
him to improve
the biggest thing that he's done, especially over the summer, is he's really taken care of his body, and he's leaned up quite a bit. He's still gotten stronger. At the same time, he's really put a huge emphasis on how he conditions, how he eats, everything else. So he's learned that as time has gone on, and he's always been a guy that's really capable of stretching the defense. I think he's got a little bit more that he can do in the paint and on the block that is applicable at this level. And then, he's got to continue to be a guy that can score and put the ball on the floor and create for us.
How will a leaner body help him this year?
Well, I think being able to defend either position. Obviously, you've got fives that are going to be a problem regardless in certain scenarios, but a lot of fives that are good matchups for him. But then being able to also defend fours, especially with the way the game is going. I mean, you're playing against guys like Patrick Patterson, you're playing against Carroll when they go small, and to be able to play in those moments, you have to be able to help recover and stop those guys from getting what they want, and that is to stretch the floor.
Who are you going with tonight for the
Same.
starting five?
Same.
You mentioned DeMarre Carroll. What does he do for them from a matchup standpoint?
So it'll be interesting, Paul, to see how they continue to use him, because he played 41 minutes the other night, played most of them at the 3, which he has done most of the preseason, but then at the end, Indiana was small, they were small, and DeMarre was at the 4 a lot. So I anticipate seeing a lot of that. As the season progresses, I don't know what their plans will be tonight or in the next 2 or 3 weeks, but his versatility is one of his great strengths. He can shoot it. He shot 40% from 3. We all know that he's got a great kind of way about him and a demeanor and a passion that is contagious. So he's a winner. He impacts winning, and I think they've added to their team by adding him.
When you think of his shooting in particular, is that the direction you're going in? That sort of
Well, I think there's a lot of good examples of guys that have really improved their shooting over time. That's one thing, that if you have reasonable mechanics, that if you're willing to put the time in and you have the right mindset and you practice deliberately, then you'll get a chance to become a better shooter. There's a lot of ifs in that. It's not for everybody, but he's worked really hard to make himself that. I see a lot of our guys that are on our team. We talked about Marcus's shooting last 2 years. We talked about Jay's a little bit, although Jay shot it about 34% before he got here from 3. I think the biggest thing is that if you just keep working and working at the right rate and working the right way, you're going to improve as a shooter. I mean, that's what these guys do for 365 days a year. They work hard on their games, and so they should improve.
What are the benefits to holding shooter out here if you are the third game?
You know what? I just think by the time you get up, by the time you have shoot around, get back in your car, hopefully you don't hit any traffic on certain days, but sometimes you do. We've got guys that live all over town, and last year from about February 1st on, we did it the whole time. And so the thing that I've always thought is we're going to prepare as well as we can. If we're going to take 35 minutes before the game here, we can make that as good as the 45 minutes at 11 a.m. And I'll have to be better. I'll have to be succinct. I'll have to be clearer, and I'll have to do more work. And hopefully everybody else will sleep. And that's what we need. We need guys to be rested and cleared mind and fresh legs, and let's go.
Did that start last year because of all the stuff?
No, it just started because it felt like, here we are traveling all over the country, and we're trying to keep this general time frame open so that they can sleep, and we prioritize sleep, and then all of a sudden we're getting up a little earlier on game days at home and coming in, so it just didn't feel like it was consistent with everything else we were doing. And we were also in a rhythm of games where we didn't have any days off. And sometimes one of the things that you don't realize is when you get home late on a Monday night and you get a bad night's sleep that night, but then you get up the next morning, not Tuesday but Wednesday for shoot around, you got a chance of having 2 bad nights in a row, or at least 2 less than ideal. Maybe you can get a good one. So it's not exact science. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. Bottom line is, can you get your game prep in? And we've been able to do that, so we'll see.
How do you work Kelly in tonight, and how does that affect the rotation?
He'll play, we'll see. That's all I can answer. I don't know exactly. You know, I had a set rotation in mind the other night as far as what I had written on paper, and I went away from that at the 5-minute mark of the first quarter. So we're going to play the game, coach the game, and play it as it happens. But he'll play.
Is RJ okay, and is he going to be active?
RJ will be active, and he is healthy. Who's inactive?
Yeah.
Jordan and James.
You said the other day that, at halftime you just talked to Tyler real quick. You said, this may not be your night, but more night will come. Is that something you think you received well as you've talked to him since then about that? Or
Yeah, I mean, I in the moment it's hard, right? Because you really want to play. You come to the gym to play, especially if you started the game and had a bucket early and everything else. But I felt like being smaller was a little bit more beneficial the other night when we were trapping. And so that left basically room for one other big. So it's a little bit more difficult when you're doing that. And the fact of the matter is that that's what we've preached all preseason. And so we've got to be able to do it. And he's great. I mean, he's a pro. He's a really good guy. I'm certainly empathetic to it, but I'm not worried about his response at all.